Eyes by Mack D. Chapter 6. Lives Lost Differently. The weekend is something that everyone looks forward to. No matter the position, it is a destination and an objective. It was a cloudy Saturday morning, so not much light greeted you through the windows today. Slightly yet dazed, you roll to put your arm around Scarlett's figure. This attempt is short-lived with the realization of the fact that she was gone. You jolt, suddenly sitting up for your eyes to search around the room for her. Your eyes fail you upon this quest. You clutch your blanket around you, barely caring if you are truly to be seen in your naked state. Rounding the corner and down the hall, you continue your search. Nothing. Why would she just leave without telling you? To yourself you think the worst when you find a note sitting upon the kitchen island counter. You pick it up and it read, "I'm sorry for having to dip, kid, but I forgot I actually have something to do today. Forgive me? Let's do this again soon. Scarlett." Your heart flutters as you take a sigh of relief. You don't know why your emotions for her are so strong. Perhaps this was meant to happen. Or maybe this feeling was just a side effect, yet lingering from the acid. There you stood, in about more than a century's worth of dust accumulated over time. Some of which was disturbed, but still, not in quite some time. For some reason, unpronounced to you, you always find yourself surrounded by obnoxious dust of another person's life. The dust fills the lining of your nostrils, coating them stale. You stand, hunching over an old trunk. The attic smelled terrible of mothballs and age. It's sad, really, how someone's entire life can be comprised and compiled within one single trunk. The last time this trunk must have been open was shortly after it was filled by your dad. Shortly after that, well, no one really kept a trunk for your dad's stuff. The thought of this saddens you, as if somehow you didn't come through for your dad on this one. "I'm sorry, Pops," you stated as quietly as you could, sighing outwards. "I don't get why you had to go. Who would ever want to hurt you? You got along with everyone." The soft statement leaves you notably on fact that it should have been impossible for your father to have had made any enemies. Even when your father wasn't in the wrong, he always seemed to find equal ground somehow. Poetic man, your father. Mom was sweet too. That is, until Dad died. That is, until your dad was murdered. His death was all over the news, everywhere. The county was buzzing about the tragic event of a young child losing their father, about the possibility of a murderer in such a small community, about a sobbing wife turned to drinking her sorrows away. That last part never made the cut for television or headlines. That at the time was yet to come. The next day was like any other for all others. Lives were normal, and people lived on beyond the sight of a sad story. For you, it never ended. It never would. How could it? In retrospect, it was only just the beginning. Still, to this chapter of your life, you cover yourself in dust and search for what? An old baseball glove? Passports? Pens from past jobs, and a #1 grandfather coffee mug? Few things truly pique your interest. Your guess is, most things must have been picked over before the last of it was boxed in this trunk. Then, it was stuffed into the attic. Photos in black and white showed your grandfather in his prime. He was skinny and very pale. His mustache was that of a resemblance of Charlie Chaplin's. The album you were holding was made of leather, it was sure to survive a long testament of time. Your finger passes through pages and pages of memories of a prior lifetime. You see your grandmother, head held of auburn curls. Her smile matched yours more than you'd expect of your father's. This was due to your father's naturally intimidating features, frilled brows, and a low tone in voice to express. Hell, even his walk wore such aggravation. These are just a few of the features to mention. Your grandfather was such a man as your father, just as involved as a pillar of the community as he, yet looked so stern at times. Photos of your grandfather at a fire station all suited up brings back faint memoir-like glances into the past, back to when you had some of your earliest memories. The next photo was at the old mental hospital, the one Scarlett's grandpa worked at. He was there, alongside her grandfather and a boy that seemed off in his expression. You draw your finger down to the bottom, where you can clearly see where names once displayed. You pull the photo out of its pouch contained within the photo album. Flipping it over, you see it was dated May 6th, 1968. He was there. He was there shortly before all those people died. Why was he there? What was it your grandfather had never revealed to you? The hospital. If you were to get any more of those questions called to you answered, you were going to have to go where it had all happened, where many before you had somehow secretly lost their lives. Locating the once-was hospital wasn't much of a task. With the photos and all other contents was a worn Rolodex. One of the few remaining cards was that of a hospital, the hospital in which you seeked. It was your grandfather's card. He was, in fact, an employee at that very hospital, a resident in practice. You now know that both your grandfather and Scarlett's had worked together in this place. The gate was well rusted and sure to have not moved since before your own start of existence. Unlike the cemetery, this gate and fence would test your skills. Today you must be safe and swift. You'd at least obtain a trespassing charge if you were to be caught. This you figure with the place having such a horrific past. Yet, what was it? All you know for sure is that many patients had died there. Also, you knew there was not much public information to utilize forward, meaning someone didn't want the public to know. Someone was covering something up. You were determined to find out what and who. You dressed in all black for such an occasion. You stretch your hood over your head as you make your way up the fence. Overgrowth climbs the limbs of trees reaching for the sky, up and through the fence's openings. It's a precarious climb, but you make it to the top. You gaze off into the distance and see a decrepit-looking building. It's going to be a far walk along its driveway entrance. Yet, you came this far. A little walk wasn't going to stop you. You were set to pry and see your way through everything that you would have to. The sun shines bright upon the gated entrance, the lettering showing brighter than ever to that of a glass-covered eye. An all-black van makes its way through the gated passage. You see, Nicholas, the entrance alone stretches farther than any other. The sheer magnitude of this place is to be coveted by any in its presence. This you will see. A younger man seated in the passenger seat of an all-black van states this to its driver. The driver of the van looked to his passenger, then stated back in response, "You say this, yet you also say how understaffed you are." The passenger quickly replied back, "So come work with me. Work here with me. I know you didn't have the good grace to graduate early with a doctorate, but the custodial pay is pretty good. Not to mention, you'll have benefits, and you'll be able to watch over your brother. It's a win-win, Nick." The driver, Nicholas, looked over to his passenger, breathing deeply outward in a thought of ponderment. "Let me see the place first, Greg. I want to make sure that my brother gets the care he needs. Jeremiah, he's had it hard enough. I don't want him to be locked up and forgotten about."